Oh, hey. Oh, you. Yeah, you. We're talking to you. You're new, right? This is the guard post. We've been here. How long's our shift been on, Sam, now?
12 hours at least.
12 hours. The grots run dry. The grogs run dry. And, we're looking over the Baron and the grots. We've been ringing grots for their grog.
Yeah.
It's dry. And welcome. We're going to chat. We're just chatting. We've been chatting about magical powers a lot. Just talking about them here, there, everywhere, breaking the fourth wall and such. And we want you to join us in the last half an hour of our shift, whilst we just talk about magic. Magic is such a broad thing, isn't it? If I say magic to you, what comes to your mind straight away?
Harry Potter. Straight away. Harry Potter. I'm that
magic.
Generation.
Platform 9 and 3/4.
Yeah, I'm just that generation where if you think of magic and wizards, you think of Harry Potter, you think of wands, you think of owls. That's where I go with it, which is
Dumbledore.
Snape. Dumbledore, Snape,
Hagrid. PS1 Hagrid.
PS1 Hagrid for sure.
I think about him a lot.
I think about him and Lara Croft Tomb Raider. Sometimes the merge of them both.
Same reasons.
Yeah, the same. Angular.
Lara Croft with the beard.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's something in that. There's something
in that. For sure.
Untapped potential, I'd say.
Untapped potential, for sure.
Now, with magic systems, I think, like just magic. I think people can use it as a get out of jail free card, which I think is the narrative issue with it sometimes, is people can go, oh, let's make up a reason why they Deus Ex Machina, the god of the machine. I'm going to magic up a way that the heroes survive, the good guys win, all those things, and that can be a bit unsatisfying. And I think one of the best things in magic is where I personally like knowing how it works.
You're like a know it how it worker person.
I like knowing how it works because I really then like it when there's someone in the story who bends that rule, and that's really cool. So, for instance, in Harry Potter magic, one of the laws of magic is you can't fly. You can't, except Voldemort knows how to fly because Dumbledore can't fly. He can't. Dumbledore's debated the greatest wizard of all time. Voldemort can, and his top Death Eater friends can because he shows them how. He breaks a fundamental law of magic because he's that adept. That is so cool because a parameter was set, one person breaks it. That's sick. Love that.
That is sick. I mean, so you're already. This shows a lot about your personality. It's like before you've even set in, you're like, I want to break it.
Yeah, I want to know. I want to know
how it breaks. I want to know how to break it straight away. I mean, magic is. Would you say it's like an integral part of fantasy? Would you? Because I guess you could have fantasy without magic. Could you have fantasy without magic?
So, when I think of fantasy without magic, my brain goes slightly away from fantasy to the Last Kingdom series of books, which are historical fiction. And there isn't magic, but what there is weird things that the characters explain by the interventions of gods or witches or wizards. Yeah. But actually, probably, that storm just happened to come. But it came at the right time for these people attacking the fortress. Those sorts of things. So, doing actual fantasy without magic, I think, is hard. Because the fantasy part is that there's an imaginary, unrealistic quality to it. Because I don't think fantasy is always trying to represent our real world. It's taking aspects of the real world, but augmenting them with dragons, with wizards who turn up and save the day. I personally think it's very integral. Do you agree with what I'm saying, or are you a different...
I agree with you. I'm going to look up what in my guard post dictionary.
Oh yes, flick through. I'll do some paper. Yeah.
Flicking through that book.
Flicking through the book.
It's so fantasy. Really, is the definition of fantasy is kind of like just the facility or the activity of imagining anything that's impossible or improbable things. So yeah, it would. You could do that without magic. You could definitely do that without magic. But I think.
But would it be improbable though? Would it be impossible or improbable if there's not like a a mythical
mythical, supernatural element to it, because you're right. I guess to have a to have it be impossible, there needs to be a kind of supernatural element to it. That's really interesting. That is really interesting. I love magic, though. I love
So do I.
What are some of your favourite magic systems ever? Like, if I was to go top 3 magic systems, go.
Like I say, Harry Potter for me is just so good. It's so well developed. The fact that I personally, as a big Harry Potter fan, probably can recite a lot of spells.
Wingardium Leviosa!
And the ways to use them.
Avada Kedavra!
Exactly that. That's what I'm saying. This is exactly what I'm saying.
It's true. Like, it's true.
It's iconic. It is iconic, and it's really well developed. There's rules to it. There's also weird, whimsical bits that aren't quite explained.
Yes.
There's schools of magic that are really explicit because they're literally different lessons, which is insane.
That is mad.
J.K. Rowling was absolutely on a... she
was on the mad one.
Yeah, on an absolute mad. There's a reason why it's so... Like, it's huge, because it's great world building.
It is great.
And now, I'll tell you what, actually, I'm going to quote a... Brennan Lee Mulligan, genius DM. If people aren't familiar with him, check him out. But he has this amazing quote about world building. He says, the best world building he knows is Harry Potter. And if people go, oh, what? And he goes, because think about it like this, right? You have wizards who can teleport at will, but their mail is still delivered by owls. And that makes no sense. They could teleport and give the message to them. Sorry, I just pulled the mic there. My apologies, guys.
Mike, what are you talking about? We're on
the fence post.
Sorry. Why is this fence post listening really intently to what we're saying? Yeah. It's a bit sus.
And his point basically is that makes no sense.
Yes.
So the world building is so good. So for me, Harry Potter. What's your one of your top ones?
Gosh, so many. I like a good soft magic system sometimes. I really do. Like, I love Lord of the Rings. And I love George R. R. Martin.
Can you define for me soft versus hard magic
system? Very true. Let me. Should I get a definition up or should I eyeball it? I'm going to eyeball it.
Eyeball it.
And you can help me to get a good definition. So, soft magic is whimsical, mystical. There's not really any rules. There's not really any regulations. There's not really any limitations. Hard magic is there are serious limitations that are known, serious kind of extents to the magic which are known. And that's so forth, basically, right? So, hard systems... Oh, look, I've got a definition right here. They're structured, rule-based systems with clearly defined limits, costs, and rules. And soft magic systems are systems that are... The magic is mysterious and operates with few or no set of rules, and it's often unpredictable and primarily serves to enhance a sense of wonder.
Cool.
That's sick.
That is a cool definition.
They're great definitions. I love a good soft magic system because I just do. It's because I was raised on Lord of the Rings. In that kind of like,
that is
you
pure,
don't know the extent of Gandalf's power. You don't know what really he can do
at all.
But everyone knows when he's around, and he's got all this power, and he's a wizard, and people really look up to him. And when he walks into a room, you know he's there, but you don't really know what he can do. Like in the books, what's he do? He locks the door from a Balrog, and that you don't even see. That's off camera. That happens off camera, and he has that fight with the Balrog. You see a little bit of that in the film, and then in the films you see obviously that he casts the light that scares the Nazgul away, which I think is in the books as well. But that's so soft. Like that's like making light, making a shield, making a locking spell. You kind of put that to D&D where you're doing those things by like 3rd level. Gandalf seems really underpowered, but he's not. He's this crazy wizard finger that can lead the siege of Minas Tirith and can turn back the 9 ring wraiths by just his presence. I love that. The whimsical sense of wonder to that is just so good.
I really like that. It is so cool. I totally agree. The looseness of that is really exciting, to be honest, and it gives a storyteller loads of room to kind of experiment. Now, another type of magic, which I think is, and I was thinking about this, another type of magic system which is massively famous, is quite soft, but then it has kind of hinted at being hard magic, is the Force in Star Wars. Which is really quite in the original trilogy is really kind of very whimsical, very loose. It's a kind of it fate? It's kind of it's kind of fate. It's kind of telekinesis. It's kind of loads of weird things. In the prequel trilogy, they flesh it out because they bring in the midichlorians and they go, there is this universal thing that if you have loads of these, you've got loads of force power, and they kind of quantify it. People hated that. Hated that because it's put a limitation on it. But then they bring in more powers. So you've got the mind trick, and that's the classic. But then they bring in the Sith lightning, which is obviously in the originals as well. Mm-hmm. But then you get weird ones like the Force jumps, which they don't have the CGI to try and do, do they? In the originals, hence why it's probably not there. But like, there's loads of weird.
It is in the originals. It is in the originals.
Oh no!
When Luke falls into the pit and they're
the pit of Carcoon. You're right. You're right.
Jumps out.
Okay, it's so just the CGI is better for the Force jumps. So the prequels,
of course.
But you're right. It does exist. You're totally right.
It does happen.
I think that's really cool. Yes, I always really liked that with the Force. I also liked how the Force did it, that there's a dark side, and the dark side has benefit. There are pros and cons to both.
Yes.
Because if you use the dark side, there is more power for you, but the seduction is way more intense.
Well, you give into your emotion.
Exactly. It's emotion that you give into, which could be love, and that's one of the things. It could be love, but it also becomes hate and revenge.
Was the Jedi code where it's like anger leads to hate and hate leads to anguish? I can't remember. I butchered that.
I know what you're saying.
It is like the list of it that goes down, and it's kind of giving into your lower ambitions. I guess, which is good. And then also the kind of they do the Taoism really well in it, because the Jedi Council, the whole reason they fall to Sidious is because they become so locked in their no emotions, and they have no emotions. They can't feel. They become so detached. And then Luke's supposed to represent that kind of grey middle line, isn't he?
Yeah. And that's it. And I thought that's really an interesting way of looking at it, because that ends up being both. Also, like the Name of the Wind series, the King Killer Chronicles, is that what they're called? Is awesome because it has a hard magic system where there's like maths involved.
What's it called? It's called I've got it up here. I've written it down. It's called
Sympathies. It's like really controlled.
Of energy, isn't it?
Yeah, you basically it's kind of like quantum entanglement. Like you lock two objects together, and when you manipulate one of them, you manipulate the other. But there's like an energy cost to it, and there's different materials have different like how well they sympathize.
Sympathetic bond, isn't it? It's called bond. Sympathetic bond. So.
And that is insanely well detailed and incredibly cool. But then there's also a soft magic, higher magics called naming, where they can just basically name the wind, and then crazy stuff happens when you do that.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't, because it's like completely like god tier divine magic, basically. And but you should stick to your normal.
The learning of it's super whimsical as well, because he even goes into how they learn it through the lessons in the second book, and it's crazy. Like it's about like forgetting everything and opening your mind and being, it's so cool. I
brilliant
love
writing.
those books. If you
brilliant writing.
His prose are incredible.
Yeah, he's good.
So good. Yeah. I know everyone's will be in the comments and be like, but the third book isn't here yet. And Rothus, please
come on, Chief. Hit us up. And actually, on the subject of authors that need to bring books out, Game of Thrones magic. Is so I love Game of Thrones. I'm a huge fan. I'm rewatching the series right now.
It's great.
We
are too.
Reading them. It's great. It's great. And me and my wife love it. And the magic in Game of Thrones is very weird, because Melisandre can have a night with Stannis, we should say, and then produce a demon child that basically kills his son and then his brother and then evaporates. Like, what? What's the parameter to that? So you have no idea. And also, what that goes to me, though, is I go, why does she not do that all the time? But I know it weakens Stannis. They put that in the show where they're like, oh, it weakens Stannis. He does it once. It's really weakened him. Like, he can't take it. She can, but the power she takes from him to do it is quite a lot. that's quite cool. Also, in Game of Thrones, other than the fact that there's magic, the gods aren't confirmed to exist.
No.
So, like, the Lord of Light, he probably does, because there's loads of visions people are getting resurrected, there's loads of stuff. But that could just be lots of people are tapping into a well of magic.
Yeah,
and there isn't an entity surrounding that. There's the others who are obviously magical. Like, and I was watching this. Right. Let me get my thoughts in order.
Here we go.
I love tier list videos. I really like them because I love hierarchies of sorting things. It's a nerdy thing I've done for my whole life. I love going on the Star Wars Wikipedia and finding the best lightsaber fighters and kind of categorizing them in my head. I love doing that. Just a satisfying thing. Saw this great video and actually want to shout these guys out. If you want to watch Game of Thrones related content, watch the Fandom on YouTube. Excellent videos. Love those guys. Super funny and good. But they do this tier list video about magic power levels in Game of Thrones. And that it's mostly book, but then they have to shift it to show as well. And at the top of the list is the Night King, because he's the guy. And basically they go, and the guy's like, normally in this situation, we discuss all of the feats of magic that these people have, all of the amazing things they've done, and the people that they fought. But all I'm going to say is, the first men built a 700-foot wall, 700-foot high wall of magical ice that stops them coming. That's all you need to know. If they have to build something that big, he's obviously the most powerful. And I was like, yeah, it's totally true.
And that's mad as well. I love what George R. R. Martin does with like these things. It's really good in fantasy books, and I love it. Which is the magic falling into iniquity. So like, the 700-foot wall built like by Bran the Builder, but no one really knows how. No one has that magic anymore. No one can do these things anymore. Old Valyria, where dragons ruled, and all this legend of like where magic was crazy, blew up. No one knows why they blew up or how it blew up, but they blew up, and the Targaryens are the only ones left, and they have some knowledge, but eventually, for the generations, it dwindles and dwindles and dwindles until we have nothing left. I love that about that, like, old magic systems.
He's got so many amazing things, and what I find interesting about that is, in terms of European history, the Middle Ages was that. Like, Rome was way more enlightened in terms of science and like mathematics and stuff than we were in the Middle Ages, because there was a horrendous decline in the Middle Ages. And like, it's a similar thing with magic, isn't it? Like you say, old Valyria, the greatest nation that's ever lived. Everyone rode dragons, or lots of people had dragons. Magic. They could smith these swords that never lose their edge.
Oh yeah, Valyrian
steel. The Valyrian steel, which are the icon weapons. And then there's just... But also, the brilliant thing about this, again, Fandom guys, shout out to you, because you were talking about the Valyrian steel swords. They were like, Valyrian steel swords aren't lightsabers. No, they don't just cut through anybody, because otherwise that means somebody with a Valyrian steel sword always beats somebody without one, which isn't the case at all. It's just they are lighter and they don't lose their edge, and they're iconic. And they can kill the White Walkers, which I also saw something about, is apparently that dragon glass, which can kill them, is imbued into the forging process of the Valyrian steel.
Wow,
I didn't know that, but I was like, that's sick.
Would make sense.
And that's cool. But, again, really spitballing here, dragon glass being a magical thing that is really useful against the others is like a limitation thing. That's a hard magic thing, because it's a material that's good for one thing that's been blended into this other thing, giving them that property. Really cool. Same as J.K. Rowling does with the basilisk venom with the Sword of Gryffindor. Same idea.
Yeah. Gosh,
really
I love magic items. I love it.
They are
like Anduril,
so
Flame
good.
of the West.
Yeah.
You don't really know what it has. Once again, that's such a soft magic sword, because it's just Anduril, Flame of the West. It's a
great sword,
but it's the sword of the kings.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all it needs to be.
But
Excalibur.
But it's the same thing as the rings. What can the ring actually do? It can kind of... It tempts him a lot. Apparently, it can jump out of people's pockets. Invisible. It can jump out of people's pockets and turn you invisible. Beyond that, you're like, I don't really know. Like, or like Gandalf's ring. Like, he has a ring of power. He's one of the elven rings. I think it's the ring of fire he has.
It's the ring of fire.
And, like, apparently it can help you lead men. What does that mean? Does it put sentences into his head that are going to be really useful for him? Does it just expand his presence? Like, what's the deal?
Galadriel's ring helps maintain Lothlorien, even though the Elven light's going. I think that's part of her power, is that she can do that.
Interesting.
Yeah, and Elrond has something as well. I love, it's interesting because we come from like TTRPG background where everything you get a magic item and it's all laid
Clear
out
what it does,
what that magical item actually does. But I wonder if you can definitely capture some of this magic and put it into tabletop RPGs, like for sure.
Wish spell. That's what I think. That's
whimsical.
I
magic,
think what it is wish spell is that. But then basically there are huge parameters. There are like you can make it the most existential, crazy, weird thing using the spell Wish. If people aren't familiar with this, by the way, it's a max level spell. It's the most powerful spell in D&D. You basically choose something to happen and you state what it happens. Now, the caveat is the DM, the Dungeon Master, usually listens in and listens out for the crack. They're tapping on the walls of the things you said, and they're listening for the crack, and then they suddenly find it, and they go, "I'm going to exploit the crack." And you might get what you wanted.
Monkey board, yes.
Yeah. So, for instance, we've spoken about this in a previous episode, but for the relevance of this, one of our friends in my campaign recently used it, and he used the wish spell he got it in a book. It was really cool. It was this whole magic item he got, and he used it to return this planet of theirs, this home planet that had been destroyed, big sci-fi campaign, and all the pieces were like shattered around everywhere, and your whole fleet had gathered around, and you'd been in this big space battle. And he used it to return the planet and close this portal to this horrible, nasty plague realm.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, cool. Those things are going to happen. It's going to shut the portal, and it's going to reform the planet. However, because of how spread out all the pieces are, they are going to just basically return like they're magnetized, and they're just going to decimate your fleet. And they took like 35% of your ships, and you were like, oh no! And it was like, you got what you wanted. Yeah. That you got the whimsical thing, but there was also this limitation to it, which I suppose is applying a hard magic concept onto a soft magic effect, I guess.
Yeah, there's a whole conversation in that as well, like how do you because I think the thing is when you're playing tabletop games, it's really difficult to have soft magic because the game needs structure to play.
100%.
Like you need the structure to play, so you can't do that. But in like writing, and I mean, maybe could you think of a way of doing that soft? Because I think the way you can do it is with like your gods and with your like really high power level people. You can put some soft magic in there. But I don't know if as a player you could do it, because you as a player you have so much structure. As DM you have a little bit more freedom, where you can be like, well, I'm going to add a kind of soft magic. Here's a whimsical character that can do things that don't really seem like they should be able to happen, but they happen. They're kind of this outside of the box person. I don't think you can do it as a player.
There was a weird one. There was a weird thing in
about the wish spell. Wish spell is an example.
Yeah, what was that game called? It's the Critical Role company made it. It's the Cthulhu.
Candela Obscura.
Candela Obscura, that's it, right? So I played one episode of that. It was really cool. And I can't remember. I played like a magician guy called Michael Mysterious, who was my guy. It was just for fun. And then basically one of the abilities was basically you have this magical feat. You can do some weird, not quite fully explained magical feat, and I used it to just teleport over a fence, and that was cool. And like leaving it loose, like a minor magical feat, is quite fun. Like it's very loose, but like it can't be crazy, because otherwise, what it becomes is the D&D. There should be an element of yes and. I do something, you say yes to that, and I'm going to add this thing. But if you're only playing yes and there's no dice rolling, nothing fails. So you're just making everything up, and it becomes an imaginary game rather than a TTRPG game.
For sure.
For
sure. I'd like to put a couple of honourable mentions in here. Let's talk about Warhammer Psychers.
I was going to mention this. That was my next one as well.
I've been playing Space Marine 2, so I'm kind of in the Warhammer vibes. So.
Go.
I would need your help, Sam. You're definitely more of the expert on Warhammer than me, but let's do it together. Which is so magic in 40k is from the warp, right? So the immaterium, which is the non-material realm, which is the realm of kind of emotion and spirit and those type of things. So in the mortal realm, if you feel really powerful emotions, you could create things with your emotions in this immaterial realm, which is kind of a spiritual realm. Is that a good basis for what the Immaterian is?
That's exactly the description I would say for the warp, yeah.
Cool. And so then there are entities, humans, sometimes Xenos, so aliens, or any other faction. No, they're probably the main factions that can tap into this Immaterium and pull power from it through themselves, and they're called psychers. But there's a kind of cost to psychic magic.
Massive.
Sam, maybe you could explain, because this would be. Would you say the magic in Warhammer is soft or hard, and would you explain the kind of cost of it for us?
Oh, that's such a good way of. So, the thing about Warhammer that I would say makes it a hard magic system, because I think in the things you can achieve, it's a soft magic system.
Because it's just
you can disassemble a tank. People do like the crazy max level psychers. Magnus the Red just disassembles a tank with his hand. Done. Yeah. He can perceive prophecies. He can do he can just do everything.
Right, it's just crazy,
everything that he wants to do. He can do it. The problem is the limitation is the danger, which is basically your emotion in the material realm produces a spark of energy, emotion in the Immaterium that all of those emotions have coalesced into things called the Chaos Gods. The god of battle is Khorne.
Yeah, cool.
The god of decay and despair is Nurgle. There's Slanesh, who's a god of pleasure, and Tzeentch, who's a god of change. Any emotion that relates to them in any way empowers them.
Feeds them.
So by being a psyker and accessing the power, you get energy from their realm, but you open yourself up to their denizens, which are called demons, for lack of a better term. In Warhammer, they're called demons.
In Warhammer, it's because of like old superstition
myth,
of like our time. This the language of demons.
That's what you call them, isn't it?
And they go. They don't understand what these horrible things are pulling themselves from the warp, and they go, demon.
That's what you call it, isn't it?
What would you call it?
Yeah, and as an untrained psyker, you will get eaten by. You will either go insane, you'll get eaten by demons, or you both
turn into a spawn,
or you turn into a chaos spawn.
Just mutate, just like so. You go, I'm going to use a little bit of magic, go, and then you just turn into some 8-eyeballed, multiple-limbed abomination that eats all your friends.
Yeah, and and the level of control you need is insane in Warhammer, and the risks are just crazy. But the whole thing with Warhammer is it's so macro scale that an average human with magical ability is so insignificant.
Yes.
And they will die so horribly along with trillions of other people because that's the grimdark setting.
Yeah.
So it fits. If you were doing one story and that's the way magic worked, it would be really tough because anyone with magic would probably just die. But in Warhammer, because the expectation of the story is people drop like flies, people die horrendously badly, people live awful lives. It is grim dark. It is that. Like, yeah, the magic is really, really grim as well. Yeah. And so powerful. Like I say, people can disassemble stuff, people can see visions, people can tear portals in reality and step through into other places. Like, it is absolutely crazy the things you can do.
And the beauty of it as well, I think, is that the fantasy meets the sci-fi, where the warp also kind of powers the ships.
Yeah.
And, do you know what I mean? Like, so you've got this magic that comes in, and this is a really good point as well of like where sci-fi and fantasy meet through magic sometimes. Of like, oh yeah, you know, our ships are powered by nuclear engines, but to get to this other place in space we have to travel through the Immaterium, so we have to go through this like weird spiritual realm to get, and that's how we get speed. It's so cool. I mean, they're geniuses. That like
it's brilliant. Like I say, Warhammer was the thing that was my like childhood thing growing up with. Like, I loved Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, and Harry Potter, but like me and my friends all played Warhammer. I read loads of Warhammer books. Like, we were so on that.
And then he got me into it and just demolished my wallet. Never financially recovered.
It will get
never financially covered from the game workshop smirk.
You never will.
Never recover.
No.
Oh, plastic.
No, please.
Oh, lovely plastic. Yeah.
Amazing.
Good. Yeah.
Honestly, all I can say is I recommend people check these things out.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I think we've got to pretty much where we wanted to, I think, in terms of this discussion of magic. I'm really, really happy with that. And I want to just to run through our recommendations again, I think would be the best thing we can do.
Yeah.
Which is read The Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss.
Yes.
Read Harry Potter if you haven't, mate. Come on, get on it, mate. Come on. Try Warhammer out. If you don't want to play with the toys, just read some Warhammer lore.
I don't like that you called them toys, Sam. Can we take that back?
I know. They're like miniature. Yeah, that's true. Adult miniatures that you paint and play war games with.
Yeah,
yes,
not
exactly.
toys.
Sorry,
not toys. Gosh.
My apologies. And just check these things out.
Song of Ice and Fire by George R. R. Martin.
Song of Ice and Fire. Oh, my lord.
Lord of the Rings by Tolkien. If you've really come on.
Are you living under a rock?
Are you living under a rock? And the person that kind of coined a lot of this stuff, where I touched on hard versus soft magic and a lot of the laws of magic, is Brandon Sanderson. And I know we haven't talked about him much this episode, but we should have. And we can talk about him in the future. He'll come up a lot. Read the first Mistborn trilogy. Read Stormlight Archive as well. You'll only enjoy him. Yeah,
for sure.
Is that the end of our shift?
I think that's the end of the shift, mate. I can hear the bell. Ding, 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 ding.
Ding, 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 ding. Well, we'll leave you on shift and keep an eye out. There were some Grorguts coming out of the swamp over there.
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
You won't get
keep
that stick off for a while.
Yeah,
the brazier hot. Keep the brazier real stoked. I'll stoke it one last time before we go.
I always mistake that. Is brazier the one on the walls with fire in it, and then brazier is like a type of lace bra, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
So you can whichever of those you want on your guard duty, you go. You ahead.
Do it. We know. We don't judge. See you later.
See you later.
Amazing. Oh, like and subscribe. Oh, wait. Hold up. Like and subscribe. Subscribe.
Please do subscribe.
We're here. We're working out in the cold. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for coming.
Cool.